Hello, everyone, and welcome to the next episode of the CoolKarnis. This is your host and host, Sanjeev Kulkarni. Sorry, it took me a bit long to come up with the next podcast this time. In fact, if you look at my long hair and my beard, and you look at the video, you'll guess how long of a gap it has been between me recording the video and putting this prelude together. No excuses, just that it was summer holidays and there were a lot of things going on and things just got caught up. But here I am. I'm super excited because this is the first in the series of the music related or the art related podcast that I talked to you about. And the first guest or the first CoolKarni that I have is Sridhar Chari, a very well-renowned Mridangam player in the Melbourne circuits. I want to call out that this is a true long podcast. The collective podcast went on for close to 3.5 hours and we completely lost track of time as Sridhar and I were speaking. So we are going to split this into 2 podcasts, but each podcast could probably be close to 1.5 hours or so. But I assure you that you will enjoy each and every moment of this because Sridhar is a master visualizer. The way he narrates his journey and the stories, it's going to take you through the bylanes of Chennai, where he grew up and where he learned his art. It'll also take us through some of those kacheris or the musical sabhas that he participated in or he had the fortune of listening into. Sridhar also graciously spent time in explaining a lot of intricacies, nuances, and the fundamentals of Carnatic music and Mridangam. For someone like me who did not know anything about Carnatic music or Mridangam, this was an excellent learning opportunity. But for some of you who may already be aware of Carnatic music, this could very well be a refresher. Sridhar is a CoolKarni because he is and he continues to be an IT professional, but as I mentioned, is a very well-renowned Mridangam player in the Melbourne circuits, accompanying a lot of the visiting international artists. But at the same time, he continues to hone his art or his craft and has now picked up flute as well alongside Mridangam. You in fact have to listen to the reason as to why he has picked up flute. So please join me in welcoming Sridhar Chari and listen to his wonderful journey spread over 2 podcasts. This is your host and host, Sanjeev Kulkarni. Hello and welcome, dear friends, to another episode of the CoolKarnis. This is your host and host, Sanjeev Kulkarni. And today I'm honored to be here with Sridhar Chari ji. As I've mentioned to all of you that we will be doing a series purely based on the musicians and the art side of the world. I'm glad that we are starting with that and we are starting with our first guest, Sridhar Chari ji. Sridhar Chari ji, welcome to the CoolKarnis.
Namaskaram, and thank you very much for featuring me today. And I am so glad to be part of the podcast and share some of my experiences and some of my life stories.
Absolutely,
as part of this podcast.
Absolutely, sir, and that's the journey of the CoolKarnis. The word goes like CoolKarnis or Karnis in Hindustani or in Hindi language, as you understand, is the deeds
yes,
that we do. So we want to celebrate the cool deeds or the CoolKarnis of your life, and therefore the CoolKarnis. So Sridhar ji, the first thing I'll request is maybe before we start, I have interacted with you and we know each other in the Melbourne circuit, but for our viewers, if you can please introduce yourself.
My name is Sridhar Chari. I used to be called as Sridhar Venkatachari. Mm-hmm. Venkatachari used to be my father's name. You know, in India, South Indian tradition is we always prefix our names with our father's name. So I used to be V. Sridhar. And then when I moved to this country, I was only known by Sridhar. Everyone started asking me what was V. And then when I said V means Venkatachari, and then they started calling me Venkatachari, I wouldn't even respond to them. And then some people got offended because they would call me and I wouldn't respond to them. they used to feel offended. I said, I called you and you didn't even respond. And then I said, how did you call me? He said, oh, I called you Venkatachari many, many times. I said, no, I won't respond because that's my dad's name.
Sridhar.
And over time, I think I figured out that we need a surname. And I had changed my name to Sridhar Venkatachari at some point when I was having my Indian passport. And then realized that Venkatachari is my father's name. So I just basically made sure that we are the Charis.
Yes.
So called myself the Chari. So
Unique.
Chari.
Unique, absolutely. So sorry, you please continue because your name is just one part of your introduction. So please.
Yes. So that was me coming into Australia and the changes that happened around that time frame. But before that, resident of Chennai. I've been residing in Chennai since my birth. And I've studied in Chennai and grew up in Chennai. And of course, for any a family who the focus is generally on education.
Correct.
So the same thing happened to me as well. So I was enrolled in a English medium school, and in T Nagar, and which is in the central part of South Madras. And at some point in time, my mom decided that she needs to give me some education in music. So my sister was like 6 years younger to me, and she had, I think she had turned about 6 or 7, I think. And then mom decided that in order to enthuse her, that I should sit with her and learn music.
So accidental, so in a way for you.
Yes, absolutely. And that is how it started. So daytime school, evening we come home, the music teacher would come home, and then just to convince my sister that it's okay to sit and learn, I'll be sitting there.
You'll be sitting there as well.
So that went on for about 6 years. But in the meantime, my mom figured out that because I listened to her and I would sit with my sister for every class, that she realized that I could possibly do something by myself. So she enrolled me to learn Mridangam.
Oh, so let me understand this. So initially you would just be sitting with your sister. You would not be doing something.
No, I'll be singing. I'll be singing
as well.
Yeah, I'll be singing with her as well. And then mom saw that, I was serious. Initially, she probably thought that I wasn't serious, but I was serious. And then she said, oh, I think it may be worthwhile to put him to do other things. And that's how they enrolled me for Mridangam.
Okay.
And when it was actually, none of my family members came and enrolled me. Actually, my cousin, mom entrusted me to my cousin and said, take him to the school in T Nagar and this school. And then on Vijayadashami day, they start new classes.
Correct.
So they asked me, my mom asked my cousin to take him over there. He's like 15 years older to me. So he took me to Krishna Gana Sabha in T Nagar. And and enrolled me with Mridangam. So I had no idea. When mom said, oh, would you like to learn Mridangam? I want to, enroll you for Mridangam. I said, that's okay. And then I just went. And then first class I went, the teacher basically asked me to sit. This is how you sit. This is what you play. First lesson. So he taught me the lesson. I came back.
The first lesson was just to sit
down, and they always teach
something.
one specific lesson they teach.
Okay.
It's the basic lesson that the basic 4 notes, rhythmic notes, that they say that was the first set of notes that originated from Lord Shiva.
Okay.
Ta, di, tum, nam. So even in the dance forms, they use that as a basic. Because in the Bharatanatyam dance form also they use it as the origins of the rhythm. So same way, so the practice is to learn, is to learn how to play the tadi tonam on the mridangam. So on that day, I would sit there, and it was like one by one. So when my turn came, so the teacher asked me to come and sit. I sat down, and then asked me to play it, and then he corrected my fingering and whatnot. I came back home. My dad didn't know that I was enrolled for Mridangam because mom probably didn't want discussion. So she wanted to get me in, and then she was going to convince my dad. Because our family circles, generally music is, you can enjoy, but learning and all of that stuff is secondary. Education is primary focus, especially for males. Anyway, I finished that class, and then the next Tuesday I have a class, and then Thursday I have a class. And then in the meantime, mom mentions it to dad, saying, oh, I've just enrolled him for Mridangam. And dad kind of looked up, didn't say anything. And then we thought that matter was settled.
Oh.
But anyway, about a month later, we were at my cousin's, and my uncle mentions this in front of my dad, saying, oh, he started learning Mridangam, he tells my dad. And my dad just looks at him and looks at me, and he says, jack of all trades, and then he walks off.
Nice. So that's an acceptance in a way that your dad is.
I don't know whether it was acceptance or whether his way is to say that, why are you doing all this? Why do you need to do so many things?
Why not master of one kind of
thing? But he didn't complete the sentence, so it was more positive. Had he completed the sentence, then we know that it was not positive, it was negative. But he didn't complete the sentence. He just smiled and he said, jack of all trades, and he walked off.
Right.
And he would not take much of a notice of my growth in Mridangam, because I think to him, it was more study.
So it's more like, if your studies get impacted, then this has to stop kind of a mindset.
Correct, at that stage. But then I used to persevere. I used to go to school. 4 o'clock, the school would finish. Then I would go to the Sabha where the classes were, and I would wait until the teacher comes. The teacher would come around 4:30, and then we would basically whoever comes first. It's a first come first served basis. So first person comes, then they will sit down, they will start playing, they will learn, they will go, the next one sits. So sometimes
it wasn't a class per se, it was more individualized
class, but the class will go only for about 15 minutes. For one person, it will be about 10-15 minutes, that's all. So you learn, you play what you've been taught the previous class, and then if the teacher feels that you have practiced enough and it is satisfactory enough, they will tell you the next step.
Sure.
So that is how it used to go. And by the time, I used to come back home, it used to be about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So, I used to be so hungry. But yet, nothing kind of swayed me away from it. I think the benefit or the best part of it was the fact that one of my friends who used to, at school, lived on the same street where the Sabha was. So it gave me an opportunity to walk with him to his house and then go to the Sabha.
So have like a coffee or some
exactly,
some idli or something.
And so it was that was one of the things that kind of encouraged me to go to class, even though I was hungry and I was kind of thinking, oh, maybe I should go home. This bloke will basically have to walk all the way up. He'll ask me, oh, are you coming? And then I'll go with him.
All right. That's good.
So that's what happened. So I think it was roughly around the 8th grade when I was studying, is when 7th or 8th, I can't remember. I know the year, 1976 is when I started learning.
Okay.
So I think I was in grade 8 at the time. So I started learning. So 3 years, I had no problems. I would go to class and then I'll come home. On Sundays, again, extremely hard place to go, right? Sunday evening is when we'll have the movie on Doordarshan those days. There'll be a movie at, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or something. And then at 8:30, they'll have Chitrahar or... So those...
Wednesdays.
Was it Wednesdays? So Sundays, they used to have something.
Sundays also, is it?
Yeah, they used to have something. So it used to be like packed. And, I used to play. After play, I'll come home about 5:30, 5:45, 6 o'clock when it gets dark. and then the movie time. Everyone will be waiting to watch the movie, and then I have to basically have my tiffin, and then I have to pedal my cycle,
Go again.
go to the station, take the train, go to
So it was a hop, skip, and jump for you to get there,
and then walk 10 minutes and go to the classes. And then some days I go there, it'll be like 6:45 peak time. There'll be 15 students waiting to learn. I'll be the 16th student when I walk in. My teacher would look at me and he would say, why don't you go into the Sabha and listen to the concert and then come back and tell me what they played? And then, around 8 o'clock, if you come, I think I would send all of these ones home, and then you can play at leisure, he would say.
So he had, was it because he had started seeing some merit in you that he was exposing you to things like this?
It could be. Or it could be the fact that, rather than sitting here and talking to somebody, you better go and listen to music.
Fair enough.
Anyway, I would go there and I would listen to the music and whatnot, and then I would come back, and then we would spend a good half an hour at that time, because I was kind of getting into a state where I would be able to play a full solo segment, and he was teaching me more and more of the intricacies of the rhythms at that stage. So he wanted a little bit more time. He wanted to spend more time.
And just to get a perspective, I understand that this is like kind of whoever comes, they get that. But what age group were the other kids?
Oh, it was right from 6 years old to 60.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's diverse in a way.
Yeah,
okay.
very, very diverse. And my teacher, Kumbakonam Rajappa Iyer, he was the one who was teaching at Krishnagana Sabha. Interestingly, I used to watch him, right? When I was in class, I used to watch him. I used to watch him interact with other students. And to some people, he would be very reserved. To some people, he would have that arm's length dealing. To some kids, he would be very playful. And I used to see how he interacted with all these people. And he was able to kind of approach the teaching methods. He was able to tailor the teaching methods to suit the student that he was teaching. So if the student was a bit playful, he would kind of interact with them in that way. And then he would teach the lesson so that they absorb it. So to me, I was kind of, the family background always says you respect elders. So I was always very respectful. I will never talk out of turn or whatever. So to me, it will be like, he had his, his view of me, essentially saying this guy will not talk out of turn. And if I ask him a question, he will answer. And so he knows what he was able to read me very, very, very easily. And so when I would actually sit there and play, I used to feel so, very, I wouldn't say upset. I would be ashamed to, if I didn't get something right, or if I hadn't practiced, I would feel so ashamed to go and tell him I didn't practice because I had a test in school, or because I felt that he had a higher expectation of me every time. So I would not, if I didn't play right, I would not give him an excuse, because he knows that I can do better. That's the impression that he thrust on me when I used to learn. So it was a fabulous journey that I had. It was more like, you have this guardian angel. So where you can, if you want to, you can talk whatever you want.
Correct.
But if you choose not to, no one's going to be unhappy about. So he had this very extremely, I would say, near perfect demeanor for a teacher. And so I really enjoyed learning from him.
So that's kind of left a mark on you, I see. How long did you learn from him?
8 years I learned.
8 years?
Or 10 years I would have learned. 10 years. From 76 to 86 I learned.
That's probably the first guru you've had in music.
83, I think I did my Arangate from in Chennai. So around I learned till about I was 80, and then 1 year I took a break, or 8 months or something. I took a break for year 12. After year 12, I didn't go for 8 months, and then my teacher had taken me off the rolls. So one day I show up, and then he looked at me in surprise and says, "Oh, you're back." And did you come to see somebody around here? And you just wanted to say hello? And I said, "No, sir, I wanted to continue, resume my classes." And he said, "Are you sure?" And then he said, yeah, I'm sure. And he said, "Okay." And he didn't put me on the rolls for the next 3 weeks. He wanted to see whether
if you're serious.
If I'm serious and I was coming to class.
And sorry if I missed that part, but you took that break because maybe
Year 12.
what was happening? Year 12.
Year
right?
12. Year 12, it was busy.
Of course.
Year 12 was busy. And that 2 hours that I would kind of, that I would take to actually go to class and then come back home I felt that it was not because of the learning part. Learning part was fine. I would learn, even if I were learning, I would have the time to practice and all of that stuff, because I was still practicing at home. When I was actually not going to class, I was still playing.
And why were you able to do that? I mean, did you see that more as a compulsion that you have to do that for the teacher, or you had started enjoying? You found that
it was more a relaxation,
stress buster.
Yeah. So I'll come to that in a minute. But the good thing about it was it's not the actual learning part. It's more the transit times. So by the time I get there, it is like 20-minute walk from my school, then do the class, and then from there 15-minute walk to the station, and then 15 minutes or 20 minutes train ride, and then another 20-minute bike ride to reach home. It was that dead time, I call it, is basically a waste of time. I could have, if I had just finished my school and gone home, I could have done better. So that is the reasoning behind why I didn't do those 8 months.
In those months, yeah.
Those months.
And just to get this clear in my head, I also grew up in Mumbai, so I understand the train, hop, skip, jump cycles. But your school was also a fair distance. So even to go to your school, you would need to do that.
Yes.
Cycle to the bike to the train station, train station to another train station. Okay.
Exactly. So bike to the station to the destination station, and from there walk to the school, or walk. So walk to the school will be in one direction. If I travel a bit east to the school, it'll be to the north
for the Sabha.
For the Sabha.
But all of this is Tinagar only.
In Tinagar. So the good thing about it was, because it was in the same vicinity, I didn't have much of a problem hopping from my school to the Sabha during the weekdays for the classes.
Correct.
There was a class on a Sunday. That was a pain in the neck, because after cricket, you come home tired, and then everyone is just getting ready to watch TV.
You have to pack up.
I have to pack up and go for Mridangam class. It's like, I've got to go to Mridangam class. But still, I used to do it.
Yeah,
I never used to skip many classes in those days. But when I came back, and then I re-enrolled myself after I finished my year 12, there was no stops. I was just progressing step by step. Another interesting thing happened at that time.
What year was this again, sorry?
1980.
80. And your Argator was 83. So that's coming in the future.
Yeah. So the good thing about why my interest kind of grew exponentially at that time was because we were living in a place called Madipakam near the airport. And this is a new suburb at the time. So it was all paddy fields and whatnot, slowly being converted to housing. And then they were subdividing, and then they were selling blocks and whatnot. And we built our house. And when we built our house, there would have been hardly 100 families in that whole neighborhood.
Right? Scary in a way.
Yeah. Well, that's how it was, right? Maybe 200. I might be, stretching it a bit by saying 100. Might be about 200. Anyway, so that suburb, they had this concept where they would do the bhajans. So the person a neighbor of ours who used to sing in these bhajans, And one day my mom makes a mention saying that Sridhar is also learning Mridangam. That guy gets interested. That person gets interested.
Come with me.
And he says, "Oh, you come. I will make sure that, you become, you become good at what you're doing with Mridangams. I will make sure that you are, you can get your, you can push yourself hard enough, and you will be able to practice immensely, and you will enjoy it." And he took me there. And that is one entrance that I got.
Correct.
Which even today when I look at it, it's probably something, again, somebody has orchestrated it. I didn't actually ask for it, or I didn't go seeking for it. It just came my way.
And until then, in your classes that you would learn from your teacher, you had not had a chance where you're accompanying a singer?
Not a lot. Once or twice I would do it. But here, it's bhajan. It's like 4 hours.
And,
On Saturdays, the bhajan will start at 7, right?
Evening.
It'll be held in everybody's house. So today it'll be held in a person A's house, then tomorrow person B, or next Saturday. So Saturday bhajans we call it. And essentially 7 o'clock it will start. It'll go till 11:30. And at the end there'll be a prasad. So, that is an attraction.
That's taken care of.
That's one attraction. The second thing is that, 7 o'clock we come home. Saturdays we play cricket, whatever, games, and then finish up, come home, wash ourselves, get everything ready, and then take the mridangam, go to bhajans. So it used to be a good, one after the other thing that used to happen.
Correct.
So I go to these bhajans, 7 o'clock we'll start. I'll be the only mridangam player. And initially I was probably the only mridangam player. Or they didn't have a mridangam player in that area. They had to invite people from outside.
So high demand.
So when they saw that there was a local who can accompany, they said, "Why don't you come along and play?" So I started playing, and then over time I had other people who also would be able to play, who'd come and play as well. So there's a little bit of camaraderie that existed as well. And good thing about it is that, for 4 hours I don't have to practice at home. 4 hours I'll sit there and I'll be belting it out. And then whatever I wanted to, new things I wanted to practice in, I can just implement it. No one bothered whether, I played this particular pattern or that particular pattern, or, because it's bhajan, it's all about devotion.
Correct.
And at the end of the day, if you meet the minimum criteria for what they have asked you to do, that's fine.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic. And so what that gave me, that over 3 years of, I think I did that activity till about 1986, I think. Or even later, 1987, probably.
So this was well into, like, where you're, from an education perspective, you have graduated.
Yes, right. Yes. And then when I did that, the advantage I had was that they would be singing variety of songs. They would be singing in variety of rhythm cycles. And for me, it was an absolute cake for me.
Correct.
And I can sit there and I can practice for every one of those things and didn't even have to think. So even today, what it gave me was, if today I just have to take my drum to a concert, and then I have to ask them what pitch. So I take the right drum. And then I sit there, they start singing, I start playing.
You start. Correct. You have heard so many varieties in a way. And
I don't have to sit with the singer, practice. That, as it kind of never eventuated. Only for very, very critical concerts and whatnot, where there's some intricate stuff that need to happen, that we need to play together and all of that. We might sit down, say for a recording, if you have to do a recording, and then it may be a worthwhile task to actually get together once or twice just to make sure that everything is set.
correct.
Because it's a CD recording or whatever. Then we would basically get together. But for general purposes, when I have to play something, I don't have to even think about it. I just sit there. I can just ad-lib, follow on the fly. So that experience playing for bhajans
came to you.
Yeah.
And that was, like you mentioned, that was completely maybe got sent in a way.
Grassroots level. So I knew the patterns. I didn't know how to implement them, or I knew a very basic way of implementing them. But then here is an opportunity where I could actually try this, try that, try this, try that, listen to somebody play, say, how are they playing? and then try something else. Gave me a lot more scope
Correct.
for me to widen my horizons. So it was very, very interesting. That phase of my life was probably a turning point as far as my Mridangam is concerned.
Mridangam.
Seriously. And so 80 onwards, 83, my teacher said, I think you're pretty much ready for an Arangetram. Then I came back. I got my parents to go and see the teacher. So the parents went and met the teacher, and the teacher said, this is what needs to be done. And then Arangetram was fixed. Everything was fixed. And you won't believe it. So Wednesday is my Arangetram. And then the previous Saturday, the singer wanted to see how I play. We wanted to just get an idea of how I play and what my skills are and whatnot. So my teacher asked me to come to his place. So I go there, and then we sit there, and he sings a song, I play. And then my teacher says, yeah, what do you think? Yeah, he should be fine. And then he asked me to play the solo part that I'm going to play, so that he understands what I'm playing. So I play the solo part and everything. And then he does his timing and whatnot, thalam, and he says, yeah, it's all fine. And then on Wednesday, the following Wednesday, I have my Arangetram. Interestingly enough, I used to play cricket as well. So I used to represent various divisional teams. I used to represent local teams. I used to represent college. I used to represent.
Were you a batsman by any chance?
Oh, I'm a left-hander. I play left-handed. I'm a batsman, and I bowl spin.
Wow.
Left arm spin. Yeah. So
there is a reason why I put batsman, but I'll come to that in a bit.
So cricket was like everybody's thing in India anyway. So all poor people will learn cricket, all rich people will learn tennis.
Correct.
But we tried that as well. We tried to do
both.
We tried to do the
Rich boy thing as well.
Yeah, rich boy thing as well. We did that as well. So cricket taken me places. The Saturday afternoon, I'm supposed to go and play with the singer. Morning, I've got a 30-over match. 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. I have a 30-over match. I have to go. So, two minds. What if I get injured? Like if I break my finger or if I hurt my finger or whatever, I can't play. Never ever thought that until my mom told me. I said, you have to go and you have to play an Arangetram on Wednesday, and you're saying you're going to play cricket today. You have to prioritize.
So this thought came to you, or this thought came to your mom and therefore you thought, okay.
Mom.
So you did not even think. Okay.
I accepted. I said, I'll be there at 7 o'clock. No problem. I'll be there. And then I go in, and then 7 o'clock, I still remember vividly, I remember the whole thing that happened there when I was playing the cricket. I was taking the stance. This guy is coming. First over, one guy got out, and I had to go in. New ball, and I was just waiting. And my mind, the guy was running in, my mind was,
what your mom told you.
Yeah, what's going on? Should I be careful, or how do I take it? I didn't bother anyway. That thought came and crossed. I played that day and whatever, and then I came home, and then I went to this thing. All of these things happened. And then on the Wednesday again, Arangetram all done. And after that, it was all fine. That was 83. I finished my my bachelor's. And then was trying to figure out what I need to do next.
And if you don't mind me asking, what did you study?
Physics.
So much physics.
Physics.
So like
BSc in physics. BSc in physics. Finished BSc in physics. Then in the meantime, I had about the summer break. And the summer break, I was just playing cricket. I was doing all sorts of things, applying for jobs, doing everything under the sun. And then I had a chance to go to Bombay because my cousin lived there.
Where?
In Chembur.
Oh, okay.
So he was a bachelor at that stage, and he was working for Tata Electric, I think. at that stage. And so he said, "What? You finished your thing. You're free anyway. Why don't you come over? And I'll introduce you to a few things over there." So I said, "Okay." So I went, but he had already asked me to do. There was a course in Madurai College of Engineering. They had a computer course, and he had asked me to enroll into that. And so I had actually gone and done that as well. So I finished all of that, and I did all of that while I was doing my bachelor's. It was a correspondence course with a contact. So it's like twice you have to go for 2 weeks to Madurai and stay there for 2 weeks, and then you have to basically use their labs and do your work and whatnot. Yeah, coding and everything. So got through that one. And when I finished that one, and so when I finished my graduation, that also dovetailed around the time frame. It was in June or something. The graduation finished in March, but then in June I basically finished off the other one as well. So my cousin said, "Why don't you come over to Bombay?" So I went to Bombay. I spent a bit of time here. A couple of interviews I attended, didn't get the job. Attended, and then my cousin said, "Why don't you come all the way here? Why don't you stay back for a few more months, find a job? You should be able to get a job."
And you were looking only for IT jobs?
IT. That's because that is what was. I didn't have a mind of my own at that stage. It was like my brother used to tell me something, my cousin used to tell me something, and I would basically say, "Okay, I'd probably pick this up or pick that up." And my dad
is this that brother who used to take you to the Mridangam classes? Or
that was my cousin. This is my own brother. My own brother.
Like your elder brother?
My elder brother. So he was a big part of my life. And he was a big advisor to my life. Even my dad never used to advise me as much. My brother used to be the one who used to be very protective of me. And he used to guide me. And anyway, so they were all kind of directing me to basically go into this mode or that mode. And they said, "Oh, you have to do your master's in engineering, a master's in physics, electronics. You need to get into that branch and whatnot." I enrolled myself to do my master's at Annamalai University. And that basically was enrolled. And then I went off to Bombay. And then, but then what brought me back was I had a concert for the Krishna Jayanti festival. The Krishna Janmashtami festivals happened in August. And there's a series of concerts that happen at that time. So they had slotted me. My teacher.
This is your teacher doing this?
No. This is at a sabha. This happens in a sabha. They had asked my teacher and said, "Oh, can you please nominate somebody to play for the Janmashtami series?" My teacher gladly nominated my name.
Experience.
Yeah. And then he sent me a postcard saying, "I've nominated you," because
he knew you were in Mumbai.
Yes, he sent me a postcard to my house saying that I've nominated you on this date, so you be available on this date. So you're playing for so and so. The Sabha will let you know. And then the Sabha sent me a note saying, you're playing for so and so on this date at this time, and the pitch is 5 or whatever the pitch was. So they would send a postcard. So the postcard came. So my mom basically called my cousin and said, "Hey, he's got a concert and I have to come back." So my cousin was looking at me and saying, "What's going on? You're here looking for jobs, and now you're going back to Chennai to perform a concert. Is it really worth going and doing that concert?" And I said, No. I think my teacher has nominated me. I might have to go. And then came back. And then I played that concert. And then after I played that concert, the next... so things started falling into place. Then I attended Tamil Nadu government was sponsoring young musicians to be performing in concerts around South India, around Tamil Nadu. So that was a state government. So they had an audition for it. My teacher said, "I think you should go and attend this audition." So I just picked up a Mridangam in the morning, 8 o'clock, just went there, and then I got selected. So they normally do a scholarship where they pair up the team, like a vocalist, violin, and a percussion player, a Mridangam. And then they basically form these teams, and then there is sabhas around Tamil Nadu, they basically schedule our concerts over there. So we get an opportunity to go to some of these places and perform and get a bit more experience in performing. As a young musician, you go and perform there and come back. So that was happening. My teacher asked me to go to other places, Kalpakam, Tyagaraja Vidya Samajam in Mylapore. A few concerts he would basically,
Chennai.
wherever somebody asked for, he asked him to nominate somebody, he would have a pool of people and he would nominate. I would probably get in the pool, I would get a look in at some point in time. So I was basically honoring every one of them.
If you don't mind me, sorry if I'm interrupting, but if you don't mind me asking, how did this come to your teacher? Is it because he was one of those renowned musicians?
He was always connected with the music scene
circle. Okay.
I was young and I was kind of, when you say I'm connected with the music, his connections were a lot more involved. So a lot of musicians knew him and they would talk to him for various things.
Sorry, and I'm doing this as a part of the journey as well, and also so that we as viewers can understand this a bit more, right? So if I interrupt, it's with that. So I apologize.
Feel free.
So a couple of things I wanted to understand. So first and foremost, can we now start at this point, or if you want to do that later as well, but can you dissect and help us understand the Carnatic classical music?
Okay.
Because I think it's important that we understand where Mridangam sits and how important a role it plays.
Exactly.
Because now, for example, we'll come to the point of what is happening, outside the country when we come to Melbourne, etc. But in India, at least, the common belief that some of us might have is that people travel as an entourage, right?
Correct.
That if a musician is traveling or if a musician is coming, they have their own team, at least within the country, right? But based on what you're telling me, I'm guessing that's probably not the case. Sometimes you'll have the singer independent and then you have to arrange an entourage.
Yeah. So what with the Carnatic classical music, when I started learning Mridangam, I knew that Mridangam was played at concerts because mom used to take me to concerts. I would see the Mridangam. So I'll be playing in the sand, and when they sing rags, I wouldn't be bothered listening to them. And then as soon as they start singing the song and the Mridangam starts playing, I would look up and I'll be focused on the Mridangam. I'll be watching it.
This is even before
I started learning Mridangam. So that is how my first introduction to this type of music was. Of course, mom used to sing. She used to sing in All India Radio, and she because of family reasons, she didn't continue and she didn't start performing in stages. Going in a sabha and performing on stage. But she kept herself just to All India Radio.
What did she sing?
Carnatic music. Same Carnatic music. So I used to listen to Carnatic music at home as well. Mom used to sing. So that is how I got my experience as a listener. So I used to listen to Carnatic music at home. All the time it will be there. My cousins, my aunts used to come. They all will have a music session. They will all sing.
So was it more like, only the women were involved in this?
Correct.
Okay.
But however, my brother is a very good singer as well. But
the same brother who was in Mumbai?
That is my cousin.
Okay.
This is my brother.
Okay.
My brother and my elder brother. He had a fabulous voice. And everyone who comes home will ask him to sing something or the other. So they will ask him to sing a bhajan, or they will ask him to sing a film song. They will ask him to sing like S.P. Balasubramaniam. He will sing exactly like S.P. Balasubramaniam. He will sing like T.M. Soundararajan. He will sing like, you name it, Yesudas.
He could mold his voice.
He will mold his voice and he will sing the way they have sung. If he has listened to a recording, and he will be able to exactly sing that way. And his voice was very, very good. And so when all my aunts and everybody come to my house for a function of some sort or a festival, Diwali or whatever, after lunch, we will have a session. We will have a session. They will all kind of zoom in on my brother and say, can you please sing? Can you please sing? He never learned formally because my grandfather never allowed at that stage, because I told you the family circles is education. So and he is the eldest in the family.
So it's three of you, like
3 of us. eldest in our family, and he is the eldest grandson for my for my grandfather. From my grandfather down, he's the eldest grandson. And so grandfather had a very big say in terms of what he did and what he didn't. So I understood. So he couldn't. So they wouldn't enroll him for music because they thought that if you enroll him for music, the mind won't go in studies and he will be focused on music. Anyway, and but however,
but I'm sorry, I'm tempted to ask. So you got through because your mother took that bold decision?
I think, but that by the time I was growing up and whatnot, I think my grandfather's hold had relaxed a bit because he had retired and he was getting older and all of that stuff. He was softening up a bit, and mum was kind of in the middle of the whole in the middle of the whole family, looking after the grandparents, looking after everybody. And
so joint family.
It's a joint family, and she was the central point in my household. So grandfather did not want to kind of cross when my mum decided that this is best for him, for me, and for my sister. He didn't want to get involved. He just basically said, okay, whatever you do, but make sure you study.
Studies, yeah.
So that is how it kind of eventuated. So my brother used to sing very well. So music was always there in the family. My brother used to sing film songs as well. So, and everybody used to listen to
him sing
and then my aunts will sing, and then my mum will sing. They'll ask my mum to sing. So it used to be quite a...
And had you reached a point where you would play Mridangam?
Sometimes I do. This was even before, as I was learning.
Oh, right, okay.
Even before as I was
that.
learning, yeah. So when I got in, so that's a first introduction for me to Carnatic music. And then the second introduction was, however, when I sat with my sister and I was learning.
Correct.
And I learned for about 6 years with her. When my voice broke, the pitches were different. So the teacher basically said either he has to do separate classes for us, or whatever, because he cannot accommodate both of us in the same class because my voice broke and I started my voice. So with music, what happens when you're young, your voice is very high pitched. And then at about when you hit your teens and when you hit puberty, male voices break, and then the voice will kind of go down. And then you will basically get a bass voice. So when I was able to match my sister and I was able to sing with her, we continued as class. And then when it broke, the teacher said it has to be 2 different classes, but we were not financially equipped to
manage that,
allocate fees for 2 classes. So I dropped out, and then my sister continued for a little while.
Did she still continue?
Yeah. She continued. She continued after a while. Initially, she was with that teacher, and then over time, I think she moved on to another teacher, and she continued. She continued singing, and so the thing was, so first introduction was through the family. Second introduction was when I started learning with my sister, and then the third introduction was when I started learning Mridangam. And when I started learning Mridangam, my teacher used to send me to these the sabhas to listen to the concert during class, because if he was overwhelmed, he would say, go there, listen to the concert, come back in an hour, and then you can do your class. And I used to listen to the concerts there. Then I got a full view of where Mridangam fits in a concert arrangement.
So explain that to us a bit.
So basically, in a concert arrangement, we basically have a vocalist, a violin player, and a percussion player, one of many percussion players. So a mridangam, then there's a ghatam, which is a clay pot. You know the clay pot.
Correct.
Yeah, the clay pot. This is called ghatam. And then there's the tambourine, which is the kanjira. So these instruments, basically, the concert, essentially, these are the essential
mainstays, like 5
mainstays. Mainstays are 3. The other ones are optional. The ghatam and the ganjira are optional. So if there is a requirement, if the people feel that they need a little bit more vibe, they will add the ghatam and the ganjira. If they feel that a vocal violin mridangam is sufficient, they will just keep with the minimum requirement. That is a minimum requirement. And so in a concert, that's what happens. And this concert, then when we go back to the theory of how this concert began and why was it in this mode, we have to go back to 200 years back or 200 or 300 years back. So initially, when people used to sing, they used to sing for an hour or two, one raga, one kriti, one song and whatnot. So that was the mode that was coming through.
All the variations and
Percussion players were there. Violin was introduced from our British heritage.
correct.
And one of the composers, Muthuswami Dikshit's brother, was the one who actually took up the violin and he actually brought it into Carnatic music and started playing.
So you're talking of the 1800s, sorry, 1700s.
Yeah, late 1700s. So that is when all of these things came about.
Which is, I wanted to ask you that because, Carnatic, sorry if I'm probably going a bit ahead, but Carnatic music is ancient, right?
Yes.
But violin as an instrument is fairly new and it's also westernized.
Adapted.
Which means that we have adapted to that.
We have adapted.
But what used to be there before then?
No,
Was it Veena?
Veena used to accompany. Veena used to accompany. But rare recordings of that exist. Those days, there's no recordings.
Of course, yeah.
So rare recordings of those exist. They never used to have microphones.
Hmm.
The singers used to sing at a higher pitch because they have to be heard.
Far out.
Projection, for projection's sake. And then the Mridangam players will just, basically they can play hard. And then that's how they are. And concerts used to happen where people used to be seated, quiet, pin drop silence, and then they'll be performing. Prior to that particular, and then they were, so step by step things moved on, and then some musicians, even before that, we have to talk about Purandaradasa. He was the Pitamaha, considered the Pitamaha of Carnatic music because he was the one who first laid out the steps for a learner, how he learns Carnatic music, all the Sarali, all the Swaravalis. He has actually composed all of them and set them in a pattern. What raga you need to learn first. All of that, he is the one who has actually conceived all of that.
Absolutely.
So that we are talking about even before
1400.
Yeah, 1500s. And then came after that, they came the Tanjavur Nalvar. So what happened around the time of the, there was a time when Tanjavur, which is supposed to be the center for music
Culture,
in that time frame,
correct.
Culture itself, Safaroji Maharaja, Maharaja Safoji.
Okay. I mean, this is the ruler of
the
that.
ruler. He's a Maharashtrian.
Oh, okay. So that like Shivaji's dynasty type of.
Possibly after.
Like that,
anyway, after. So he actually ruled and from Tanjavur. And when he was the king, he brought court musicians from Maharashtra. And so the Mridangam, as it is seen now, the original forms came from Maharashtra.
Like the Pakhavaj.
Pakhavaj. Mainly that's what came through.
So tabla hadn't made its entry then. It
Correct.
was still the Pakhavaj.
Okay. So Pakhavaj came through, and then from Pakhavaj, the people, musicians in Tanjavur, basically slowly started adapting the Mridangam for bhajans. So there used to be court musicians in his palace who used to play the Mridangam and sing themselves. People asked those musicians, say, why don't you teach us this? And then that's how it kind of started. At that stage, this instrument was only used as an accompaniment for bhajan, just like, bhajan tekas and all of that stuff. That's what they were doing. Then the local people got interested, and then they slowly started picking this up and developing more and more rhythms and patterns and fingering techniques. And they refined the instrument also as they moved forward. So there was a lot of steps of improvement that this instrument had come about.
Gone through.
Initially, it was made of clay body. Mridang means it's clay body, no? Mridang.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So wood was never the original.
No, the body was clay, and then the straps, they were putting straps on it. But then after soon enough, they figured out that if they built it of clay, transportation issue. So then they said, okay, we will, one of these musicians who were players of this particular drum investigated, and then they went and figured out that which wood is better. They figured out jackwood is better because it doesn't expand as much.
As in jackfruit.
Jackfruit wood.
Okay.
Yeah. The jackfruit tree, the wood that comes out of the jackfruit tree, they dry it, and then they dry it means they dry it for months and years, and then when it's all dried out completely, and then they bore it, and then they make the instrument. But the thing is, they figured out that there's so many other trees. Why they pick jackfruit tree? Because of the fact that they realized that it doesn't expand as much. Because expansion is a problem. Because you're tying it out.
Yeah.
Right? If it shrinks, then you will lose tension.
Correct.
And if it expands, these things will break.
So the origin of this is a pakhavaj.
Yeah.
Pakhavaj, my understanding is still limited.
I'm not sure whether it was exactly pakhavaj, but it is a drum drum that came from Maharashtra.
From Maharashtra. Okay.
That's how I knew it. Yeah, I've not done much research into that. This is how whatever I've read.
And maybe it was clay because at that time, before this made its entry, they were used to the clay pot as the only percussion instrument.
Not really clay pot. In South India, the tabla has been there for a long time.
What is that?
The one that they use for the weddings. The nadaswaram and the tabla.
Oh yes. That has
been there from
very long time. Okay, but so what is that made out of then? That is also now wood, or
it's wood, and then it is also made out of leather. But that doesn't have the ringing part.
Okay.
It doesn't have the ringing part. If you look at the pakhavaj or the mridangam, you have the black patch, and the black patch basically is applied, and then when you actually play on the black patch, you can produce a tonic note. What is a tonic note? If you say sa on the tampura or a harmonium, you can actually produce a sound which matches that particular sa.
On this, because you're playing on the black.
So that's a tonic note. So the tonic note will match. So you've got a musical drum now. You've got a tunable drum, a musical drum. So that's what came through with Mridangam. But whereas with the tabla, it was more like a treble and a bass. And mainly it was used for playing at the temples. So the treble, so the mathematics associated with what they play is so intricate with the tabla. And slowly you would see that a lot of what was used, the rhythms or the rhythmic patterns used in the tabla slowly seeped into Mridangam as well.
Mridangam as well, okay.
So now if you look at when you play tabla, you play a teka. If they set a song for a particular speed and whatnot, they'll play a teka. The singer will dictate what the teka is, and the tabla player will play the teka. With Mridangam, it's not like that. It is like there are some loose rules about what you can play where and when and all of that stuff, but it's up to the imagination of the percussion player to actually accompany. And so it is like free format.
And that's where what you were explaining earlier when you were doing the bhajans as well. That as long as you are within that limit, then you could experiment.
Yeah, I could experiment whatever I want, and then I could produce newer patterns that suited my fingers. And then once I would test it out here, then I can go to a concert and I can actually implement them. So there are so many advantages in doing the when I did the bhajans. But coming to Carnatic classical music itself, and in the middle of this, there was these 4 people. They're called the Tanjavur Nalvar. There are 4 people, and
Nalvar is 4 people.
And basically, the Tanjai Nalvar. So they basically, where they started, their roots started, was essentially from a dance perspective. So they were composing music for dance. So Bharatanatyam also kind of eventuated around from that
same time.
Yeah, from around that time frame. So when they started doing that, so the Bharatanatyam, they were composing songs, they were composing varnams, they were composing different forms of compositions, different types of compositions for dance around that time frame. And that was taking place. And then came Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshidhar, and Shama Shastri, three of them. And they kind of lived around the same time frame, around late 1700s to about 1800, somewhere 1816 or whatever. They lived in that time frame.
In Tanjavur only.
In Tanjavur, around Tanjavur. And they were very prolific in the language. So one composed in Telugu, the Tyagaraja, one composed in Sanskrit, mainly in Sanskrit, but he has composed in other languages as well. So Muthuswami Dikshidhar. And then Shama Shastri was also in the same time frame. He composed in Sanskrit and allied languages as well. So he had these Manipravada Kritis and all of that stuff, which means it'll be in multiple languages. So that happened at that stage. So when that happened, then musicians, there was and Tyagaraja had so many disciples. So they were so inspired by his ability. It's like he will just basically go to a shrine or a temple and he will just start singing. And he had the ability to sing a song in a particular ragam, and he will just basically sing, and the lyrics would come out. He never used to sit down and come.
Yeah, it's inspired. It's just coming to you.
Coming to him. And then all his disciples used to
write it down
and whatnot. And there were so many of his disciples were so inspired by Tyagaraja that they would compose music. And I'm told, I don't know how far it's true, but I'm told that some of them didn't even put their names down because they actually wanted to put Tyagaraja's name in it, because they revered
through him. Yeah,
they revered the Guru so much that they would just compose and then they'll put his name on it. And so that also happened. So that is when we call it the golden age of Carnatic music, when all these people settled down. Muthuswami Dikshidhar is a different kind of composer. He would sit down, he'll think, and he will write. And he went on his Kshetra thing, and he will go to Chidambaram, he'll write a song on the presiding deity there. He went to Banaras and he did that.
So what inspiration he gets there is what is going to come out in the music.
Correct. So very, very different. But at the same time, they have interacted amongst themselves as well. They have actually written in praise of other people as well. They were inspired by the other composer and they've composed based on that.
You're talking between themselves.
Right. So it must have been a fabulous time to live at that time.
Of course.
And so when we move on from that on, and then musicians basically started singing Tyagaraja Kritis. So the grand disciples of Tyagaraja, and they were musician families family of musicians who would basically continue the trait set by the Guru, and then that used to happen.
Continue.
And over time, I think people started singing songs at the temples. That's where it used to happen. And I think in festivals and whatnot, it used to happen. And then over time, and then just before the British came, or around the time when the British came, in fact, Muthuswami Dikshidhar was inspired by the British as well.
The violin that you mentioned.
That is one part. That is his brother. But he has actually composed music that he listened to the Western classical music, and he has composed quite a number of geetams that resemble that kind of tunes. Yeah, so he was inspired by that, and he has composed that as well.
That's so nice to hear that, this adaptation of music in a way kind of also goes to the point that music knows no boundaries, right? They say that even now, that the best way to intermingle or become part of a culture is via music, because there are no boundaries. You just start absorbing it, and this is a reflection that he was even able to absorb the Western classical and adapt something to that.
Absolutely, and he was able to do that. He was able to do that as well at that time frame. And incidentally, we played a song at a particular concert here, and one Westerner came over and said, "Oh, this is this old ship." The song that used to be sung by the sailors. That's how it used to be, and it was one of the songs that was kind of adapted to Carnatic music.
Was it something that Dikshitar ji had done? Or?
The one that we played was from another composer.
Okay.
But so there is a lot of influence as well from coming through from the variety of the composers who were actually looking for new things to do, and they were not shy. And it is basically maybe the connection with the divinity that they had, that they were able to come out with these things. The creativity was so high.
Correct.
And the way they were composed. Even today, when you take some of these, Tanjavur Ponnaya Pillai, there was one of the composers there. If you look at some of the masterpieces that they've composed, it's just phenomenal. Musically, it's got so rich. It was the ragas, the way they've packed the notes, the way they've written the notes is so beautiful. And even Dikshitar, if you look at some of the songs that he's composed, it's so phenomenally good. And the thing that you need to also reflect upon is the fact that this is an evolving.
That is what I was about to ask you, because and I have my understanding is a bit more with Purandar Dasa's Kritis rather than the Trinity. But even there, I always have this question that I'm sure that because they say the same thing about Purandar Dasa. Like he would just be in a trance. When songs would come to him. Or he was so spontaneous that they would have to go and seek alms, right? Food for the day, right? That's how they would get their food.
Exactly.
So when he would be going out from house to house, one house he says something, next house he says something else, third. So the only songs we know today are the ones that were noted by the disciples, essentially.
Exactly.
So my point is that through the duration, I think there will be something that would have gotten added. Is that exactly what he sang? Maybe, maybe not. But over the generations, the teachers would have probably retained the essence of the original and added a few things here and there, and
Possibly.
How it has sustained.
But it all has come through disciplic succession.
Absolutely.
So it is not like music is notated. Today, if you have to go and get one of these Western classical composers' music, it's all fully laid out. So when you actually play, you don't have I don't know.
It's a language, so you
just basically follow whatever has been written and then you play.
Correct.
So that is how it is. Whereas in our style of music, the composer has composed and it was sung in a certain way in that generation during during that time. Over time, things have kind of fine-tuned, changed, and evolved.
Correct.
And that evolution continues even today.
Correct.
So this is the background on the music side. Now let us come to Mridangam.
Correct.
So Mridangam, Narayanasamy Appa, he is the musician, he's a court musician of the Maharaja.
The same Maharaja.
The same Maharaja. And he was the one who's credited with bringing Mridangam into existence the way we see it today.
So in the sense, he took that liberty to, we'll still call it Pakhavaj, we don't know whether it is that or not, but he took the liberty to kind of, adapt the instrument that came from Maharashtra to something that is more suitable to the environs of...
I'm not sure whether he even adapted. He probably brought an instrument because he was from that land. And
he was from Maharashtra as well.
I'm pretty sure that he was from Maharashtra. And he landed up here and then as a court musician. And then he brought a drum and he would basically play for his whatever bhajans that he used to sing. He would just basically use the Mridangam as an accompaniment, and people got interested in that and they wanted to learn. And then there were about 2 or 3 generations of musicians, of Mridangam players who have learnt from Narayanaswamy Appa. And incidentally, I'm also told that, Ramanujam, or mathematician. His cousin, I think, also used to be a Mridangam player. And they say that a lot of mathematics transpired between
Between the two.
and
I'm not surprised because it is rhythmic in a way, right? Isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
So where there is rhythm, you're able to put some maths to it in some shape or form. isn't it?
exactly. And so these many people were playing, and there's not much notes on that level of disciplic succession at that particular point in time. And there was a time when the Pitamaha, we call him the Pitamaha from Mridangam, he originated from Tanjavur. His name was Vaidyanatha Iyer.
We are talking about what time frame now?
I don't know. I think
1800s or?
possibly.
Okay.
Yeah, 1800. Yeah. Even my other guru has learned from him. So he was out.
Oh, so 1900s then.
Maybe 1900s, yeah. So he was considered the Pitamaha of Mridangam because he actually established the base patterns of how to play Mridangam, as I am told. And he set the jatis, we call it the jatis, for how to play a Mridangam. And he was the forerunner for it. And so he was one of those esteemed personalities who set the agenda for how Mridangam need to be accompanied in a concert. And he was learned, and so everyone would go to him to ask what is to be done here and what is to be done there, etc., etc. And he used to basically guide them in those days. And he set the first set of rhythms that is practiced in the Tanjavur lineage. So now we are talking about lineages.
Lineages, right.
So there are two major lineages.
One is somewhat like the Gharana that
Gharanas, yes. So one is the Tanjavur lineage and the other one is the Pudukkottai lineage.
Okay.
So what is the
Pudukkottai
difference?
is also a place?
Pudukkottai is a place which is kind of, I don't know, which is maybe 100, not even 100 kilometers, 50, 60 kilometers from Tanjavur.
Sometimes, okay.
Probably. So this one is the Tanjavur school, and then you got the Pudukkottai school. And Pudukkottai school, essentially their origins came from the tabla side.
Okay. The instrument that is used with the
Nadaswaram, yeah. And
sorry to interrupt again, just to get my visual also and for the viewers as well. Is this the instrument where they wear certain things in their hands?
Correct. And play, and then one side they use a stick.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the one, yes.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of connection with the tabla side of the thing. And essentially, the forerunners there adapted to playing the Mridangam and the Kanjira. Originated from there. So one of the in the disciplic succession figured out that they could play this frame drum, and so they knew that the frame drum is sounding good and it can be used, and then they realized. Then they got together. So they used to talk. Although they are Gharanas, they used to talk. And this man used to go and talk to Vaidyanatha Iyer, go and talk to him and show him what you can do. And apparently, the moment he saw the frame drum, he immediately invited him to play a concert along with him on the frame drum. So that is how the frame drum came into play. So one of the. And
pardon my ignorance, what is this frame?
The frame drum is the Kanjira, which is the.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So tambourine. In the Western world, they call it as tambourine.
Correct.
But it's not exactly tambourine. I don't think it's slightly different the way
they play it and they hold it.
They hold it, and the way the drum itself is constructed is slightly different, I think. Anyway, but it's equivalent, right? And the Kanjira came into being, and so they followed a particular syllabus and whatnot, and Tanjavur Vaidyanatha Iyer followed his own syllabus. They probably exchanged. There was a lot of exchanges that happened in those times. I don't know. It might have, right? And then out of these, two pole stars emanated. One from the Pudukkottai school and one from Tanjavur school. Palakkad Mani Iyer from the Tanjavur school. And then Pudukkottai, it was Palani Subramanya Pillai. So both of them emanated. And they were basically the two icons
Hmm.
of Mridangam playing, who basically dominated the late 19th century and early 20th century.
So you mean late 1800s and early
Even
1900s?
up to, I think Parani Subramania Pillai passed away around 1960 or around 63 or
Oh,
something,
right, okay.
around that time frame.
Hmm.
Palakkad Manayar only passed away around 80, I think, 1970, 80, something like that.
Hmm.
And so he was still going. He was younger to Parani Subramania Pillai, much younger to Parani. So anyway, so they were ruling the roost. As far as concerts are concerned, they are the primary
Stars.
stars, but what they were great about is the way they handle the instrument and the amount of work that they had done in. So with Mridangam, there are three aspects to it. One is the vocalized percussion that we call it. So we say tit takadina takadum, dit takadina takadum, takadina tak. So there's a language for it. So the language itself, it's got a language, and then there is the instrument itself as to how it is tuned.
Correct.
The treble side and the bass side, the levels of how you tune your bass, where you need to tune your bass, and how the bass is considered as it gives you that comfort. The treble basically gives you that excitement. So combination of the bass and the treble is where the comfort has to be increased, how the comfort has to be given. So everyone, these two schools, they had their own viewpoints on how to.
And again, sorry, one question just to understand is, when you talk of these comforts, is that for you or the singer?
It's for the it's actually for the audience. When they
okay.
listen to it, so no two Mridangam players play exactly the same.
Even if they're playing the same thing.
Even if they're playing the same thing, it will sound different because of the construction of the instrument, because of because they're playing with their fingers, the tension
style
on the fingers, so many things. And the way they actually approach with the fingering also is an important thing. So there's a lot that goes on in the learning, right? And so these two people have done immense amount of work along with their gurus, Tanjavur Vaidyanatha, because that's how they got their
correct
their inspiration from, and Mamundiya Pillai on this side. Tanjavur Vaidyanatha, the Mamundiya Pillai, and then there's Parani Subramania Pillai on one side, and then there's Palakkad Manayar on the other side. And so these two schools evolved, and people used to. So there used to be. You can see some distinct patterns and styles, similar to how you see in the Hindustani music, where with the gharanas
and all.
You will see distinct styles in the way they approach music.
So just to understand this, so these two gharanas you're talking of is more for, or rather, lineages. Schools.
Lineages, yeah.
Are more for Mridangam, but are they the same for Carnatic music as well, or that is different?
Absolutely, there are so many singers who there are people who used to follow Tyagaraja Swami, and then they will basically have a approach to singing music. Even the Tyagaraja Swami's kritis or compositions, if he has got 4 disciples, each one will have their own way of singing those kritis. There'll be slight variants to it.
Correct.
So that is how their own independent styles of music evolved. So
and Carnatic music today is, sorry if I'm slightly digressing, but it's sort of a generalized name in a way, right? So it's not
correct.
like Carnatic singing happens only in and around Tamil Nadu or Tanjavur, no. So it's now even what you see in the southern Karnataka region, or even to little bit to Kerala as well, I believe.
That's the other part, right? When music was happening in Tamil Nadu, there was at the same time there was the same or similar type of music happening in Karnataka, in Andhra, and in Kerala.
Kerala, correct.
How? Because Vijayanagaram, the king there, had his own court musicians. There was music,
correct,
that was created as part of the courts. In Kerala, exactly the same. We had the Chera, the
Chola.
Chola
is
the Cheras. The Cheras. And there were court musicians there as well. And they would.
And these exchanges would happen, I believe. They would travel
Yes,
to
yes.
different courts and they would perform.
Of course. And then they will basically exchange ideas, and they will have a jugalbandi, and they will exchange ideas and whatnot. So it used to happen at those in those days.
Correct.
So music, but I didn't think that it traveled beyond.
Yeah. And maybe it's a style of music also. I meant to ask this later, but since the topic is going there, maybe it's a style of music that dictates, what percussion instrument you use, because you cannot, I don't know, maybe I'll ask this to you. Can you play Mridangam for a Hindustani classical singer?
I've done.
Technically?
They've done, but it's not popular though.
Maybe sounds different and
it is what do you call it? It is rare. So it is not the norm. It's slightly rare because that goes with tabla.
Yeah.
Hindustani music either goes with
Just
tabla
natural.
or pakhwaj.
Correct.
And pakhwaj playing and mridangam playing itself is very different. The instrument looks very similar.
Yeah.
But the way they play is very different.
Correct.
The patterns that they use is very different. Even though you may say that some components originated from pakhwaj into mridangam, but mridangam development has taken a different
route
altogether.
And that's the point I think you just started mentioning that time, is that the percussionist or the mridangam player in this instance is actually accompanying the singer.
Exactly.
So you're tuning to the singer. So
exactly.
Regardless of how the instrument originated, you have to start playing it in a way that it is suiting to the singer.
It connects with the singer.
Correct.
And connects with the music that the singer is delivering.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is that part. So, and while this was happening, then there's this establishment of people, musicologists were also there in that time frame. And musicologists basically wrote thesis on.
You're talking 1950s, 60s.
Earlier than that.
Earlier than that.
I think it might have been even the 70s. I don't know. I can't put a time frame for that.
Oh, you're talking 1700s.
I have a feeling it was around the 1700s, 1800s, around the time when this music was all kind of coming through. There were musicologists. And those musicologists basically would, so originally how did these tunes come into play? The tunes came into play based on age-old
folk
tunes and whatnot. And somebody decided that, okay, let me categorize these things. And then they started categorizing. So then they actually sat down and worked through a grammar for the music. Then you've got the Sari Gama Pada Nisa. And then they basically worked out, there's 12, basically there are 12 notes.
Correct.
So the Re, there's Komal, as well as there's in Hindustani, you call it Tivra and
Komal.
Shuddha and Komal.
Correct.
And in South Indian music, we got different names for it as well. So Sajjam, Shatshruti Risabham, Chatusruti Rishabham, right? Antaragandharam, Suddha Gandharam, Antaragandharam. So we call it differently. So all these 12 notes basically. And so they formulated a structure for the 12 notes. Mathematically, they formulate the structure and say, okay, if you got the 7 notes going with this Re and that Ga, then they align it with one Ragam. Then they align it with another Ragam. And so they are all the parent scale. They came up with the parent scale of 72 Melakarta Ragams. So total of 72. So one will be, 36 will be Shuddha Madhyam and 36 will be Prati Madhyam. So Ma 1 and Ma 2.
So to your point, there is definitely maths to this, right? When we were talking about
exactly. Exactly. So they've constructed that. And then all these other ragams that we hear are all kind of children. Or they are essentially the Melakartas and parent ragams and Janya ragams.
Variations.
The Janya ragams which doesn't take all the notes sometimes. So Mohanam, for example, we call it is Sa Re Ga Pa Da Sa. So there's only Sa Re Ga Pa Da. So 5 notes. So minimum composition, at some point in time they said minimum you need to have only 5 notes for a raga. That's what they said at some point in time. But then some other musicians came and disputed that, and he created a song with 4 notes.
So they tried it like that.
Yeah. He came and it became a controversy. And somebody said, the traditionalist said, no, you can't have a ragam with 4 notes. And this man created a song and he actually sang it with four notes.
Yeah.
All of those things will happen. These are all dialogues.
Yeah.
Those dialogues will happen. So all of those things happen. So they formulated the parent raga, the Janya ragas, and then they got the Bhashanga ragas. Then they have 6-note ragams, and then they've got this Vakra ragas where the notes doesn't go in ascent itself. It'll go ascent up to a point, and then it'll descend and then go in the ascent. So there'll be
a variation. So that gives you makes you all okay.
So these ragas. So who created these ragas? All these composers basically said, okay, I'm going to take this ragam and I'm going to compose a song. Tyagaraja basically composed on so many of these ragams. Muthuswami Dikshidhar composed. There are ragams that are common between Tyagaraja and Muthuswami Dikshidhar. Tyagaraja would have focused on one aspect. Muthuswami Dikshidhar would have focused on another aspect of the same raga. It is the same raga, same scale, but the focus will be slightly different. Correct. So these are also
happening, and I think in the Hindustani also they say that even till date, like even famous artists like late Pandit Bhimsen Joshi ji has created ragas.
Of course.
So that continues, right? That's continues. A part of a musician's journey or
yeah, exactly. When they find a scale that is not existing, then they basically work out, and if they feel that has merit in it, and if the other musicians agree, then they basically there's a way to nominate or name them. There's a logic behind how to name them, and then they would go and they will find a name which fits that logic.
Wow.
And then they will actually name the ragam. So this even today it evolves.
It evolves. I just have to make this point to our viewers also that sometimes, I'm not saying all of you, but there is this perception that in India all the nice things came from the Western world. What was there earlier was old fashioned whatever. But look at the amount of logic that existed, and that tradition, that knowledge is so rich. It's good that we are able to rediscover all this in a way. And I want to slightly, I'm loving how this conversation is going, but I want to slightly take a pause here. And I have to make this is bubbling inside me. So when you heard him say Janya Ragam, it's not Jan I. Okay, it's not the Jan I Ragam. It's Janya, although it is somewhat similar where it is generating out of it, but it is Janya Ragam.
The raga that has been born out of a parent scale.
Correct. So Janya, not Janai in that sense. All right.
So we're talking about the two schools of thought with the Mridangam.
Where the
Mridangam came. So Palakkad Maniyar came. And Palakkad Maniyar was instrumental in making people look at him in awe. Whenever he plays, people will be just stunned the way he used to play. Because there'll be so much mathematics in it, so much of aesthetics in it, and that people would just basically be stumped, and they'll just basically sit there and they'll be longing to listen to the sounds of his mridangam. Apparently, I've heard him when I was very young. He still was alive, and I've heard him perform.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, he's a Jambavan. He's like one of those stalwarts. I haven't heard the other person, Parani Subramaniapalli, because I think he passed away the year I was born, I think, or maybe a year before.
Earlier.
But I've heard his recordings as well, and he is equally adept with this. And he was a left-hander.
Like you. You're a left-hander, I take
I'm a left-hander only for sports.
Sports, okay.
There's another story behind that.
So I think that's a good segue that we have to get to that. But one, just to close on the earlier point, from a Mridangam perspective, then you are part of the Tanjavur lineage.
I'm part of the Tanjavur lineage. Because I learned from Kumbakonam Rajappa Iyer. He hails from Tanjavur, and he has learned from Sakotai Rangu Iyengar and Kumbakonam Alaganambi Pillai. So he has got two. One he was a disciple of one of them, and he passed away, and then he kind of realigned himself with the other
teacher.
And so that is the first aspect of my learning. So Tanjavur style is what we follow. There are recently we had a Tanjavur rhythms program recently where myself and Chandana Brijesh, she's also hailing, she's a dancer. Correct. She hails from the Tanjavur school of dance as well. And we actually collaborated and put together a program where I played the Mridangam as a percussion solo for about 45 minutes. And then she did a dance presentation of the Tanjavur classics with Bharatanatyam dancing.
So it's a kind of tribute to the
Tribute to the lineage. But incidentally, what we were, so there was a question that was asked saying, so what is special about Tanjavur style? So when you look at Tanjavur style, the thing that comes to my mind is they have constructed the base so broad that the Mahavidwans of the yesteryears, the stalwarts, have already built a few floors of rhythms, right? But there is even more scope for people from other next generation and the next generation and the next generation to build on top of it. So it is an evolution. So they've set it up in such a way that the rhythm can continually evolve and the patterns can continually keep coming up. And it's extremely innovative in the sense that for somebody to have the foresight of constructing the rhythms and the bass setup to allow people to, and when I say the bass setup, it's the what do you call the framework? I'm talking about the framework.
Correct.
It's a setup which is fantastic that you can delve into so many rhythms and you can come through and you can build your own based on what other people have already done.
Correct.
So other people have done a particular, they would have gone, let's say from here to, I'll give you an equivalent. So from here to Glenwaverley Central, if you have to go to Glenwaverley Central, there are multiple ways to go. So they would have gone one way, but the other ways are also available for you to investigate and come up with.
Correct. Create your own ways.
Create your own ways. So it gives you a lot. And the other aspect of Tanjavur playing is very, very closely aligned to the song. So half the time when we play, we line up, we just don't give rhythm. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not how we play. We look at the rhythm in the song and we punchline salient aspects of the rhythm that is present in the song.
So, and you do this at runtime, or this is where?
No, this is on the fly.
Wow.
On the fly we do it. And when you talk about music, generally when the music is sung, you sing in Carnatic style. Generally, there is 3 segments in a song. There's Pallavi, Anupallavi, and Charanam. And so before that, we should talk about Kriti and Kirtana. Kriti is a song which basically has got a lot more music, is musically oriented. Kirtanam is more devotion oriented. So it might have more words, it might be more wordy.
Meaning, you're probably going after the meaning of that in a way.
More wordy. Here, it'll be to the point. The devotional aspect will be to the point. The Kriti, more focused on music and the raga and the raga and all of that. Kirtanam is more towards devotion. So Kirtanams generally will basically have a Pallavi. It may not have Anupallavi. It may have just Charanam, 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 Charanam. Just like, if you look at, for example, Achyutam Keshavam, the one that Lata Mangeshkar has sung. So then there's Achyutam Keshavam, then, or even Payaji Mene, for example. It's a Kirtanam, it's a Meera Bhajan, right?
Correct.
So you'll have one Pallavi and then followed by one stanza, then the next stanza, then the next stanza, and then they will finish off.
So Charanam is a stanza.
Each stanza is a Charanam. So that is.
So what is the Anupallavi?
Anupallavi is basically it is a contra to the Pallavi. It goes in a contra direction to the Pallavi, musically. So Pallavi, Anupallavi, and then the Charanam. So that will be generally the methodology that will be adopted in classical Carnatic music. In Kritis, we call it Kritis, right? And so when you sing the Pallavi, so it is just, if it's a 2-liner, you don't just sing 2 lines. You sing 2 lines, then you sing a variant on the 2 lines.
Correct.
then you sing a variant on the 2 lines. Musically, from a sparse, sparsely laid out notes, as you move, traverse through, you pack up.
Correct.
Finally, the last variety that you sing will be fully packed, and it will be like the crescendo highlight of the thing. So that is how it works. So in the
classical music, in a way, isn't it? I mean, because classical singers, maybe the lines will just be 4 lines at the end of the day, but they'll keep variations they take in it.
Correct. And when we actually, in the Tanjavur style, when we actually play, we pay attention to the variants
that they're singing.
The variants. There are some of them are fixed variants, and some of them are variants based on your lineage. So I told you, there are multiple gurus.
Correct.
And each guru would have learned from a teacher.
Correct.
And then they would have sung and sung and sung. They would have made minor mod. When they teach to the next generation, there will be some variants. They might think, I don't want to sing this particular variant for some reason. And they say, I'll modify the variant to this way. So the variant would be different. So we call it the Sangadis. The Sangadis would be different. Sometimes it will be the same. Sometimes it will be slightly different between the lineages that you through the different gurus. And so when you are performing with one person, it doesn't mean they're going to sing the same when you're performing with another person. So you need to be alert when you're actually playing.
Correct.
To figure out where they're heading and what they are trying to achieve.
But in the singing, in the dancing one that you talked of, when Chandaraji was performing the dance, what is important now? For example, there is obviously a song going on.
Yes.
But what is important? You're paying attention to what is going on in her dance, and that is what dictates, or you're still listening to the song?
Three things have to happen in the dance. One is you have to be lining up with the music. That always happens. But where there is the footwork dictates, when the footwork is strong, you follow the footwork. You follow the footwork. The footwork can go contra to the song sometimes, some places. You follow the footwork in dance. Whereas when you play in music, there's no dancing there. So you just follow the music and you just line up your playing to suit that. And as you build up, you basically improve your dynamics from a very sparse position to you start playing in double speed and triple speed to actually
bring the
highlight the tempo up and whatnot. So as you move forward through these Sangadis, you will see that real build up going. And then when you come to the final one, you play the final one and then there'll be a relief.
Correct.
That relief, so you have patterns that you play during the relief as well.
Correct.
And there are set methodologies to end a section with the Tirmanam. So there are some technical aspects to the drumming as well, the Mridangam playing as well. There's technical aspects. So these are all things that you actually adapt and you follow. So 90% of these things are generally not taught because it's the art form is not a fixed art form, no?
Adapting.
You have to adapt. On the fly. You have to play.
Correct.
So it's creative in the sense that you have learned. It's like, I've got a bag of tools, right? It's like a plumber who comes. He's got a bag of tools, and then depending on the situation, he picks up a tool. And if it is a 8 mm spanner, he pick up the 8 mm spanner. If it's a 2 mm spanner, he pick up. So. And the presence of mind is within the time cycle. The difference is he can take his own time if you're a plumber to use whichever tool that fits. Whereas when you're sitting there and playing, there's a time cycle going.
Absolutely. And
you need to line up your thinking should be so fast.
To that, correct. And even to the untrained ear, sometimes if things starts going wrong in a certain way, it's very easy to detect.
Yes.
So that's also the pressure on you, especially you as the percussionist.
Absolutely. You need to hold the rhythm tight. At the same time, you need to give the scope for the musician to vary it. I'm not saying that we are not metronomes. Carnatic music singers, they don't sing like metronomes.
Correct.
So that's the basic difference between us and pop music. Pop music, what happens? rock and roll and pop and all of that. First, they set the rhythm, the speed of the rhythm, 85, 90, whatever. And the drummer has to start first with that speed. And then the music comes along.
Correct.
Whereas in our music, it's the other way around.
The singer starts
The
first.
singer starts first.
Correct.
And then they go through with a cycle for one round. And then they settle down on a particular speed. And then we just adapt from
Correct.
there on.
Correct.
And
Because I
as
believe what the singer is also trying to do is they're trying to introduce the raga and take all the variations so that you get a sense probably
correct.
in terms of what is coming there your way kind of thing.
So it's all kind of collaborative on stage. It's all collaborative. And if you look at, we do have a scenario where sometimes I even tell my students, it is more like, we are actually playing a game where we have a tight string held between the singer and the mridangam player. And then when the singer tries to push the speed, you can feel it. Imaginary, you have the imaginary string. When they're pushing the speed, you will feel it. And then you will try and resist. And they will feel the resistance coming from you as you're playing. And then you basically work with them on that mode. If the music warrants that slight change in speed has some value, you yield.
And this is probably the beauty of the live, because, and by live I don't mean where everybody's sitting together, but live also in the sense that you're probably not you've not had your rehearsals, so to say, right? You're doing it live first time on the stage.
Absolutely.
So that tension that you're talking of is actually live, which we as because you all are so trained professionals, we as untrained ears don't feel that. But you as performers are feeling that, in terms of the tension.
So when we go into a concert, the first thing we do is the first song, if you have not played with the musicians. When I go and play in India, at the festivals in December, I don't even know who the singer is sometimes.
Correct.
And then they will nominate me for a concert and I'll go there. The singer will arrive 5 minutes before or 10 minutes before. I will go there 10 minutes before. And then we will have 2 minutes to set up on stage.
What do you all talk at that time?
Nothing much.
Like what you need to know? I mean, what basics do you need to know? Based on what I heard, like do you ask them in Sakriti or something like that?
Not really. Sometimes, when the singer sits there, they haven't even planned what they're going to sing. When they probably have an idea of what they can do. And sometimes they prepare and come and then they'll tell you, I'm going to sing this as a main kriti or I'm going to sing this as a thing. This is the plan. They will divulge with you and they will actually interact with you and they'll say, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Sometimes they do. Sometimes they have a plan and they want to see how it feels. So the first item they will probably prepare. So once they do the first item, if they haven't worked with the fellow musicians before, that the first item will be a test for all three of them.
All three of them.
So to see how they are interacting and based on which the next item and the next item and the next item will move forward.
Fantastic.
So they might figure out that that their way of singing may not gel with the accompanying artist. If they feel that accompanying artist is extremely intrusive, well, people can be right because when I say intrusive, what is musical for somebody, it can be intrusive for a second person. It's all subjective.
Correct.
So from that perspective, I'm not saying that accompanies are intrusive.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm just saying that sometimes when I
the
play,
musical sense is
musical sense. When sometimes I play, they might expect me to play calm, slow speed patterns. But if I go there and if I rev up, some people may not like the revving up, right? So these are dynamics that you basically, so you tone down based on what is happening on the stage. You tone down. Sometimes they come with low expectations because they don't know who you are, and then they start singing, and then they figure out that you are able to catch everything that they sing. Then they will ramp up. So they will go from that level to that level. So we are talking techniques now.
So on a lighter note, since most of our viewers are some way, shape or involved in the IT industry, if you're looking for agile programmers, agile developers, first ask, are you a musician? If you are,
I have to tell you this though.
Yeah.
The biggest advantage I have as a Mridangam player in doing my work as an IT professional is that I've heard and seen people, if they've got a meeting, they will say, oh, I've got to prepare for the meeting, and they'll take half an hour to actually prepare for the meeting, say what they're going to say and all that stuff. As an IT professional, as a Mridangam performer, performing on stage, has given me that flexibility, because I've been reading so many people's music.
You just walk up.
Can actually, when I rock up, if they start saying something about it, I can actually read.
Correct. You just walk up, right?
90% of the time, I'm kind of close to what they are about to say, and I've already read them. So it is easy for me to actually participate in the meetings, and the level of confidence that you can go to. But if you have done any of these, any of the fine arts, you call it. It doesn't have to be music, dance, paintings. If you've done that, and if you've participated in presentations and concerts and whatnot, the confidence level that you have
different.
is like
Multifold.
way
Absolutely.
high, way
Absolutely.
high. So when you actually walk into a meeting, your position of confidence is like 10 times more than somebody who has not done that, because they have not experienced that high life or high end life or that high point. What comes after that is a big drop.
Correct. Correct.
But that high point, you know where the high point is.
Correct.
And you can lift yourself to that high point when you need to. So what I would say is, it doesn't matter what age you are. I've got students who are, as I said, one of my students, he's almost 70.
Sorry. I want to pause you there, because I'm loving how this conversation is touring, but it's free flow, but we are taking a few jumps.
Yes.
So what I'll do is we'll also take a small pause here, because in this conversation, I believe you have not gotten a sense of how much time has gone by.
Oh, okay.
So let's take a small pause here, and we'll continue this conversation again.